Welcome to Kapwa Filipino Indigenous Voices, the Indigenous Path Foundation podcast, where we reconnect to the timeless wisdom of our ancestors, one conversation at a time. Today, we have an inspiring person, Patrick Erlandson, with us, joining us here in studio, and Ricky Flores, who is joining us online. And today, we're going to have a conversation about a difficult topic, and this is human trafficking. We'll look at it from the perspective of Indigenous experiences. So, without further ado, I'm going to welcome Patrick in our podcast, and he will introduce himself, so we will hear from him how he would like to be known in this podcast. Good morning, Patrick. Thank you
Good
for
morning.
joining me.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's really
It's our pleasure. Thank you so much.
an honor to be here. I really appreciate you very much and what you're doing with this podcast. So my name is Patrick Erlandson, and I worked with a task force for 8 years on the prevention of human trafficking, and that led me to found my organization, which is called FatherCon, in an attempt to really deal with the intersection of fatherhood and human trafficking, and that the human trafficking preys upon the vulnerability of injured and weak people in order to exploit them for their own financial gain or to gain some benefit from exploiting children or vulnerable people. And I really saw fatherhood as being critical, that we understand fatherhood more deeply, and that fathers could really step up to prevent that vulnerability.
Thank you so much, Patrick. And now let's listen to Ricky Flores.
Hi, a pleasant morning, afternoon, evening, as Joe says, a pleasant day to everyone, whatever timeline you're into. I'm Ricky. I used to be a professor at the De La Salle University das Marinas. It's in Cavite in the Philippines. I was there for quite some time, some 20 plus odd years I was there. And I used to be a former board member of a national organization called Pambansang Samahan sa Psikolohiyang Pilipino. It's an organization that advances the indigenous psychology in the Philippines, which we call Psikolohiyang Pilipino. There you go.
Thank you so much, Ricky. So, from these two perspective, which is Ricky being has specialized on indigenous psychology, we're looking at Kapwa, which is our Filipino values, which we always say the others, or we see others on ourselves, or we say it as we are each other's keepers. And what's going to happen if this foundation value that we have is lost or disturbed, or worse, there is a rupture in this value? So today, we would like to listen to Cloris as he enlighten us as to why uh, or how are we supposed to continuously uphold this value to maintain a harmonious relationship with each other. So Ricky will enlighten
Okay.
us to the importance of these Filipino values. And I'm sure it is a universal value that we want to uphold. So what happened to humanity or to the family in general?
Okay. Okay, Joe. Thank you, Joe. First, I we have to set that there are four descriptions to the term kapwa
Mm-hmm.
that was specifically espoused by a Filipino psychologist way
Mm-hmm.
back in the 60s during the time when there was the Vietnam War. That's the context. American colonization was at the height during that time. And there was this man, his name is Virgilio Enriquez, that actually espoused the or used the term kapwa in theorizing number one as a Filipino values, and he calls it a core value
Mhm.
meaning central to the Filipino value is what he calls kapwa.
Mhm.
Uh, However, to this day, there are still ongoing researches about whether indeed kapwa is a central Filipino value. Such research is done by Clemente, Dumao, and Yakat. These particularly groups from the UP Diliman are doing continuing research on the concept of kapwa as a core value of the Filipino. But through the years, it has been accepted that that core value is indeed central to the Filipino, no? And one, it is a value, it's a core value. However, it is being ongoing research is still being done. Number two, kappa is also used to refer to the Filipino identity. Uh, Identity as a Filipino has been a very big question mark for many, many centuries, even to this day as we speak, considering the long history of colonization of the Philippines. No, you have 300 years of Spanish colonization and 50 plus years of American colonization. In between that, there's the Japanese 3 years of Japanese presence. So the Filipino identity, apparently, there was such a observation, even among social scientists, that the Filipino identity is lost in this um, experience of colonization. There's one social scientist that says that the Filipino is totally and absolutely lost because he spent 300 years inside the convent, meaning the Spanish colonization, and 50 years in Hollywood, meaning American colonization. So that kind of mixture seems to be the context upon which Kapwa was launched
Mhm.
as a description, no, to tell us about our core values even before the Spanish arrived and even before the influence of American individualism or the presence of the Americans. So one, it's a core value. Number two, it's to regulate relationship. What do we mean by when we say kapwa as a regulating factor or mechanism in a relationship? To a Filipino, apparently, according to Enriquez, when he confronts another person or an individual, no, uh, he either put that person into the ibang tao and the ibang tao. How do I translate it into English? When you say ibang tao,
Uh-huh.
you are a different person, no, or other.
Others.
I do not know if we can actually use the term othering in that sense. When you are hindi ibang tao, you are not different from me. You are me in a sense, or I am you in a sense. We can easily say that, as an example,
Mhm.
within the family, even if you are living together, when I relate to you, say for example with Joe, I can consider you ibang tao or hindi ibang tao. When you belong already to the category of hindi ibang tao, you are not different from me,
Naiiba. Hindi ka
which means
naiiba.
that we have a shared identity or commonality.
Or maybe we
That's
can
why.
ask, maybe we can ask Patrick if we could use the word othering. Othering.
Okay,
It's a
but we have to
creative
be.
it's a creative use of English, which actually works
It
when
works,
you're
Yeah.
right?
assigning people to be other than
Others.
yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, because
Or
you're trying to confront others so that you're separating the self now.
mhm,
And
mhm.
that way you can confront the person, right?
Oh, but we have to be very cautious because
Uh-huh.
you might get lost to the translation, and in fact, there are other scientists who are underscoring that kind of difference. That there might be some difference in the way othering as a concept is used in the American West as compared to the othering that is used in the Philippines. But anyway, the point of the matter is that when I encounter you, you can either be seen as part of me or not part of me. And therefore, in that kind of encounter or encounters, our relationship will be built. And the kind of relationship that we will be built is whether I consider you as ibang tao or hindi ibang tao, or as we can say, you are the other or you are the same with me.
Kapwa.
And that makes a lot of difference in terms of the quality of relationship, and in fact, even to the parroting of truth.
Mhm.
Yung in the research, in the way we do conduct research, for example, in the Philippines, and this is one of the things I teach as a methodology. We have already created what we called indigenous research method, which is based on Kapwa, whereby the closer I am to you, or the closer I consider you to be the same as me, the better the truth is given. In other words, if I'm a researcher and I'm asking you something, if you have not reached the point of my value as a core Kapwa, my truth will be limited as compared to if you have reached a point where I already considered you as a Kapwa or same with me, then my truth, you will get into my core truth. So yun, yung what we call that in research perspective as the ferreting of truth. So we can say that indeed, yung kapwa is a core value. It's also helped to regulate the kind of relationship that we deliver with each other. That's where I think this concept of othering is important when we discuss about trafficking. No? And then identity. To the Filipino identity, yun nga, yung environment niya, the environment, whether I'm not talking only about people, I'm even talking about trees and etc. The way he connects with the environment is that the moment he reaches a point where that environment, whether person, trees, or what, is part of himself, then it becomes kapwa. Then you have no intention to harm the person. Then you have no intention to exploit the person. Then you have no intention because you have reached the level that whatever happens to you happens to me, and whatever happens to me happens to you too, in that kind of cycle of relationship. and and I think that's a very interesting concept if we try to bring it to the idea, even to different types of issues. And I think it's interesting that we are connecting the term kapwa to what Patrick is going to share with us.
Mhm.
Yun siya. So it's a core value. It's to regulate relationship also. So the kind of relationship that I'll deliver to you is depending whether you are an other or
Mhm.
the closest, or hindi ibang tao or hindi ibang tao. But I just want to point out that we have to be cautious that the term othering might not necessarily be the exact term to capture the concept of di ibang tao. You are not different from me. Because even if you're within the family, I can consider you different, you know, the, or not different, meaning that you are same with me, and hoping that all of us can reach the point that I do not consider you as different from me. Whatever I am is you, and whatever you I am. Ganun.
Mhm.
Yun, I think that's the closest we can get to describe kapwa. I hope I was able to express that and be understood.
Yes, you did.
Mm.
And
Okay.
so, what are the factors or key factors that might be an influence to deepen such kind of levels of kapwa, to getting into that level of depth,
Okay.
to
Okay.
so that both person will reach that same level of trust, of respect? If
Mhm.
you're saying that othering is also a process, the
Okay.
same as building Kapwa.
Okay,
So,
okay,
what
okay.
are other factors, or what factors can we discuss
Oo,
in this
oo,
one?
Joe. Central to this, I suppose, and this is my assumption, central to
Mm-hmm.
this is, of course, the 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 spirituality of the Filipino.
Uh-huh.
Central to this is the spirituality. You wonder, for example, Jono, how come that when the foreigners or when the Spanish arrived in the Philippines, and this is
Mm-hmm.
the claim of the Spaniards,
Yeah.
that after 1 year,
Yeah.
the Filipinos were uh became Christians
Mm-hmm.
immediately after 1 day.
Mm-hmm.
That the cross of Magellan was set in Cebu in just 1 day, and
Mm-hmm.
and such parang, is that real? Can that happen? There are some theorizing that because what the Spanish brought was spirituality.
Uh-huh.
What the Spanish brought was something that's got to do with the divine, and central to the Filipino is the relationship to the divine. Eh, I think that's one big factor that we need to consider. That to the Filipino, spirituality is very, very much important. Ha? Number two, uh, I I think if you're talking about factors that can deepen kapwa, is yung tinatawag natin yung mga shared shared or common things, no? Ironically, that's why while we're talking about shared stuff, we're also have to put in context that in the Philippines, there's so much conflict that happened, 'di ba? And if you look at the type of conflicts that happen, it has something to do with not sharing something. That's why I think one factors that we can deepen kapwa is to look for the shared and common identities that we have, because we have been described by so many foreigners, outsiders,
Mm-hmm.
or we call them outsiders, foreigners that come to the Philippines and gave us different types of description, and therefore it's so difficult to find that commonalities. When one anthropologist, for example, say that the search for the common identities should be there, considering that there are common identifiers among island people. And since we are island people, we are commonly identified as happy. Um, we love families. We're very
Mm-hmm.
much into clan. Uh, we are connected to the environment, or the things around us are always connected with us. Hindi natin siya, we don't part ways with those kind of stuff. So these commonalities should be highlighted, and so it can deepen our kapwa. And what happens in the Philippines is that for many, many centuries, what has been highlighted are the things that are given to us or identified to us by the colonizers. And to some extent, it divided us into some geographical position. But there are many anthropologists now saying that, hey, if you look at it from the north to the south of the Philippines, there are common traits that you can find. And one of them is that the relatedness to God, uh, connectedness to the environment. And I think those are the things that we can highlight to deepen the kapwa.
Okay.
There you
Mm,
go.
yeah. So you mentioned about the diversity of our nation, right? The Philippines.
Mm-hmm.
We are diverse, geographically speaking, language, culture, everything. We are diverse, and because of that, our history will also tell us that we have been subject to different coloni- colonizers. And in our generation at this time, we are in that stage of looking for an identity so that we can say we are together, we are related, we are kapwa. And
Mm-hmm.
like what you said, the only way to deepen kapwa is to look our connectedness. And
Mm-hmm.
do you think that that experience of us being lost, looking for commonality, can that be a possibility of outside forces coming in and disrupting further this sense of how do you call that,
Yeah,
confusion among us Filipinos?
correct, Joe. And that's what you call colonization, no? I mean,
Yeah.
colonization has not been discussed so much in the Philippines, or at least even in the academia.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And that kind of disruption, colonization as a disruption, even to the way
mm-hmm,
we look at
mm-hmm.
ourselves,
That's true.
is very big, and that has not been understood so much, such that even at today, as we speak, no, the
Mm-hmm,
kind of issues that are happening in the Philippines right now has something to do with that kind of identifier that is given to us, that disrupted us. Instead of highlighting the kapwa, our connectedness with each other, the colonizers were able and were successful to some extent to divide us
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
from the differences and utilize their own agenda to us, such that disrupt we were exploited to
mm-hmm.
some extent.
And
And today as we speak, that has not been raised into some level of a consciousness that should make us drive and search for that commonality of kapwa, our connectedness with each
mm-hmm,
other, rather than highlighting the differences that the foreigners created to us. For example, yung South at saka North, no? The South being Muslim, yung Mindanao natin.
mm-hmm,
That kind of religious disconnect with the Christian experience that has been highlighted, and it has some very very historical and physical reality. For example, some of the people from Luzon, for example, were used by the colonizers to attack the group in Mindanao in the same manner. Of course, when you are attacked by the Christian, then you are not anymore a kapwa to me, because you are attacking not only my religion, but you are also attacking my family, killing my etc. So that was utilized by the Spaniards, for example, for many, many years. And that created a resentment among Muslims that we have never been part of the what you call Filipinas, because we were not colonized by the Spaniards. We were never subject of the Spanish crown.
mm-hmm.
Know what I'm getting? And therefore, to some extent, the divide continued. That's why we have to bring out kapwa, because that kapwa is our connectedness with each other,
Okay.
that you are not different from me. I am
Mm-hmm.
similar to you.
That's right.
The-
That's true. So, um, for today, we have Patrick with us, and we believe that there is hope in this nation or national problem sentiments that we have. Um, his foundation is specifically concerned on the role of the father in the
Mhm.
family.
Okay.
So we know that in the Philippines, we are very, very, very close to our families. And it
Mm.
looks like that's our driving force as well to
Mhm.
um, instigate change, right? So if we want to reclaim the kapwa, it should start among us, within
Mm.
our family. And we are honoring the father, the role of the parents, the father and the mother. And we're going to transition as to having this information, having this knowledge about our current situation in the Philippines way before that kapwa is supposed to be our core values, which is until today, I believe. But the confusion and the search for commonality is an ongoing process for all of us.
Okay.
And then here comes the problem, like human trafficking.
Mhm.
And human trafficking, as we all know, and Patrick will tell us, that once we other the othering process, we focus on the effect of the othering, that's when we exploit each other.
Okay.
Yeah. So, um Let's try to listen to Patrick what he wants to tell us about the role of the father, the role of the family in instigating change in this problem.
Okay.
Gee,
Hi,
well.
Patrick. Sorry. We have to, yeah, the intersections of things are so difficult.
Yeah, let's try to
I
What's
know.
bridge
so
it.
interesting, though,
Yeah.
I think, Ricky, I'm so grateful to hear, like in more detail about Kapwa because, I mean, to me, everything goes, it's all about identity. And this
Mhm.
is like the
Mm,
root of our problem. And so one of my heroes here in Los Angeles is Father Boyle, who's a Catholic priest who started Homeboy Industries, which is kind of a disruptor and getting gang members, people who have either become members of gangs, been formerly incarcerated, and then to give
mhm.
them a chance to change their lives and find some real purpose in their lives again. But the thing that's so interesting, the thing that attracts me to Father Boyle is this idea that in the Bible you have this idea that we're all born in the image of God, we're made in the image of God, and so our core, essential, fundamental, foundational identity is that we're all made in the image of a common creator. And so with that identity, I mean, one of the problems is that we always have these smaller level identities, and then that's always going to come in conflict or some
Correct.
kind of you know confrontation with another identity group. And the more that we can see ourselves as part of a common humanity, that we are all brothers and sisters, we're all one common kind of human race,
Mhm,
we can resolve an awful lot of these problems, and that there's power in dividing people. So when you talk about colonization, and
mhm.
there's power in being able to exploit and dominate other people when you impair that sense of common identity. And so
Okay.
whether you start identifying by your race or by your economic status or whatever it is that you're going to make your tribal um, identity,
Correct.
it's like we to really resolve, I think, a lot of these problems, to really deal with that, is we need to go back to this point of a common identity as a human race.
Uh, Correct. That's why I think, Patrick, in the Philippines, it's a wonder to many of us. How come the Spanish was able to capture our imagination and connect to such a religion that is so far away from us? I mean, d- how was he able to do that? And I think that's what when you're saying that we all come from this image of a God. I think that was also utilized in the Philippines, such that it was easy for the Filipinos to connect with this a religion
Mm.
that is so alien from us from the very beginning, and yet we embraced it so heartily. And I hope what you're saying is that hopefully we can find that common ground, and
Yeah,
that's kapwa to us to find that common ground
right.
upon
Which is
which
necessary for all
shared.
of us. We
Yeah,
all need the kapwa, and we all need this kind of sense of identity.
Mhm.
You know, the problem with a lot of the colonization was you had this mixture of kind of religious ideas and force,
correct.
a greater power over the colonized people, and this is the problem. So, relating to human trafficking, it's human trafficking happens because there's a power dynamic difference,
Mm,
and
mm,
you're exploiting a vulnerability, and so wherever that vulnerability is, whether it's an injury that's occurred because of a breakdown of the family, which is so common in America. We produce vulnerable children at just an alarming rate because we shifted to kind of a no fault divorce. We made it easier and easier for the family to fall apart.
mm,
And
mm,
since the '60s with the sexual revolution, there's this um, focus on my getting what I want, and that somehow I'm going to be happy when I get what I want when I want it. And so
mm,
that undergirding kind of worldview or philosophy of life is has been so detrimental to a common sense of identity. It's me
correct.
against the world for me to get what is going to make me happy.
Mhm.
Mhm. I have to just reinforce what you're saying now. The idea of the I to us, uh the I, me as an entity,
Mm.
is totally different from the way we look at it in the Philippines. The I to me is you, the you and I are the same. And I hope that there will we will reach a time where indeed whatever I am is you and whatever you are is me, and therefore I would not have, if we reach that kind of point, I will not have the gumption or the interest to destroy you, exploit you, or what. I hope
Mm.
that we can reach that kind of point, or we can reinforce that kind of point, that I'm not actually different from you as much as you are not different from me,
Mhm.
so that we can reach a level of commonality. So I don't have to exploit you. But I think that's, I'm talking ideal already.
No, I know. And I think it's important that we keep the
Mhm.
ideal in mind. The ideal, we should be aware of that this is the ideal, that this is what's actually going to allow us as human beings to be the happiest, to thrive, to live in a relationship with nature that makes actual sense.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
That if we start to see that if I harm you, I'm harming myself. That, I mean, that's the
Mhm.
ultimate ideal that we want to, that we're working towards. And I think it's so it's. I mean, one of the things now that's become the tool of exploitation is the internet. On a much higher level, and it held out this promise that this is going to bring us together. It's going to make our relationships closer.
Mhm, mhm.
It offered us all of these things that looked beneficial, and it does. There's a lot of things that are really beneficial about the internet and even social media and those kind of things. But
But it
the
also brings in, the evil with it.
exactly. So it's now it's the primary way that people, it creates a distance because there's a screen between us. There's anonymity. There's all these things that the internet provides
Correct.
that has allowed a greater breakdown in our relationships and our sense of kapwa, or our sense that I'm connected to you. I can I can scream at you. I can say horrible things to another human being online that I wouldn't have said in the
Mhm.
past in person, and that's
Correct.
fed the human trafficking. So it's like if I can build up a relationship with a 12-year-old by changing my identity, pretending that I'm a 13 or 14-year-old,
True.
or an 18-year-old hot guy that's interested in them, when actually I'm a 60-year-old man in Texas making these
True.
relationships with children, with young people who
Mhm.
are vulnerable, and then finding a way to exploit them through trafficking.
Correct. And ironically, or I don't know if it's ironical, and what you're actually saying right now is that the Philippines is one of the major targets
Mm.
for such kind of exploitation at the moment. I mean, if not the highest number of child exploitation at the moment is happening in the Philippines. And
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 it's online exploitation, which is so
correct.
big in the Philippines.
And you know what, Patrick? What is so jarring, as far as I'm concerned, is that the families themselves, mothers specifically, are being targeted to bring their own young children for exploitation online. And sometimes you just feel, where is humanity there? Where is the kapwa there, that is totally and absolutely lost?
Mhm.
So
Mm.
this intersections of poverty, exploitation, and all that is happening right now in the Philippines as we speak.
Yeah.
And therefore I'm I'm really interested also to hear how this trafficking uh is, I mean, it's really destroying right now in the Philippines. It's a very destructive force. Exploitation at the, and if you look at the very environment by which these are being done, these are really done to to the most impoverished
Mm.
communities in the Philippines, and therefore some of the family members are in cahoots with all this online because they know that they can exploit the poverty of these families at the moment.
Right. There's an English expression that the grass is always greener, and I think
Mhm.
this is what's always being used by recruiters, is that your life is going to be better if you come to my side, or I can make your life better
Mhm.
Correct.
in some way. And so if you can appeal to a parent, appeal to a mother, that somehow this is part of her responsibility for her family, is
Mhm.
you know be willing to allow her child to be exploited in order to benefit the family or to benefit her. I mean, it's just such a twisting of what should be true for us as human beings.
Mm.
But it's always this appeal. And I think the other thing that affects the Philippines is the recruitment of people to go outside, go to another country. You're going to make money. I mean, this has been happening for a very long time to the Philippines, where
Mm.
I mean, your major export is people. Um,
Mm. And also we have to note that the idea of the white, the foreigners actually have enough resources to help us out of poverty. Of course, the problem is also endemic or something that is has to be rooted out also in the Philippines. No, our you know our sense of self, family, etc., and also the system, the bigger system in the Philippines. No, but I think today, as we speak, that idea of the foreigners being rich, moneyed, and all that are really capitalized by these exploiters, and therefore these mothers, can you imagine mothers selling their own children are happening.
yeah, I mean, I think poverty is just one vulnerability. There are many,
Correct,
and I think this
correct,
is where now human trafficking is crossing like all different class
correct,
barriers, and what would have insulated the child of someone living in Beverly Hills, say in a rich area of LA in the past, that child wouldn't have been exposed to or been vulnerable to being trafficked. But now it's across the board, and the internet has made
correct.
it even more accessible. The FBI here, they estimate that at any given moment of the night or day, there are 500,000 predators online looking for vulnerable people to exploit and to reach. And they can now. It's like you with so many children having like internet access 24/7. I mean, that puts them in a position of vulnerability
Mhm,
to the intentions, the evil intentions of someone who
mhm,
wants to exploit them. But to me, also, it's like in working with human trafficking for a long time, men were seen as men were really demonized, and it was really this that men were the problem, men are evil,
okay,
and I think we need to really change that narrative and see that there's a grooming that happens of men to feel entitled to a type of experience and a type of wealth or position, respect, that's going on. That's also like really distorting what it means for us to be men, and that results in a decrease in our actual sense of success and satisfaction with life. And so we can demonize the traffickers, we can demonize the men who are the buyers, we can demonize the mother who's willing to sell her children, but ultimately we're all suffering. It's
correct,
we're all losing through
correct.
that paradigm, and until we confront that and realize that we're all in this, we all have vulnerability, and that vulnerability is being attacked, and especially through the internet, where there's
Correct.
so many ways to appeal to a person's sense of self-worth, or what's going to actually make me happy. When we
Mm,
named Father Con, we called it Father Con because a con is where you're deceiving someone in order to get something from them. It's a lie, basically, and we're really facing this lie that I'm going to be happier in the backseat of my car with a 12-year-old than I am taking care of my wife and my children, or
correct.
or constructing something healthy, or something that I can really be proud of in life. And that comes
Mm,
to me, that really comes down to this point of we've lost a sense of integrity. We've lost emphasizing integrity in our social relations and in our personal character. It's no
mhm,
longer something that's really emphasized or held as a social goal or a necessity for us as human beings to be a person of integrity. That
correct.
I do what I say. I can trust myself to do what's right, and I can be trusted by others. That's kind of fallen apart. And now it's like if I
Mhm,
can get away with something, why not go for it? One interesting example is the movie Ocean's 11. So they
okay.
made Ocean's 11, I think, back in the 1950s. And in that
Mm,
movie, you had these people all conspire together. They're going to go steal all this money from a casino in Las Vegas. And in the end of the movie, all of the money that they stole, all of the effort that they made, went up in smoke, being burned in a casket with
Mm.
one of the thieves who had died. And so they walked away with nothing. They remade Ocean's 11 with Brad Pitt and everyone, like in a more modern story, and they get away with it. They walk away with all the money that they stole. And we've done that. We've shifted this. If you can get away with it, why not? So if you can get away, and with trafficking, it's very hard to build a case against traffickers. So they know that the chances of them actually being punished or held to account is pretty small. So what if I can make a bunch of money from exploiting some 8-year-old or
Correct.
turning some mother against her own children? Then why not? If I can get away with it, and I think we need to really confront that and to realize that this is not a pathway to happiness or success as a human being, by damaging or exploiting, taking advantage of someone's vulnerability. Um,
Correct. 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 And yeah, true. I agree with you. True.
So,
Mhm. Mhm.
the vulnerability and the reclaiming the vulnerability of um, all of us, as you said, we are all vulnerable in one way or the other in aspect of our life, and reclaiming it and putting integrity in everything that we do and recognizing our connectedness with each other can be a factor that we can use and utilize to um, to think of a solution as to how we can prevent this, even in our family or in our circle. As I was talking to you before, you said once it hits home, let's say the issue of human trafficking hits you home, then it's too late.
mm,
And I think to me, looking into my feed, on Facebook feed, and this will lead to a question for both of you. When I look at the feed of my friends, and these are relatives, your social friends, these are people that you care about. And there's a subtle exploitation on how they, manifest themselves on social media. They're exploiting themselves without knowing it.
mm,
They're exposing something that is not supposed to be there because it can also be a factor for them to, you know, destroy their integrity in the future. So that is one reason why we have this podcast, because this is for them, for all of us,
mm,
so that we will think about what are we supposed to do moving on in protecting our integrity, developing our integrity, and deepening our connectedness, as we know that our identity comes also in different levels. Like what you said, you are a mother, I am a mother, I am a friend, I am a worker, but most and foremost, first and foremost, I am a human being. How can I keep my identity as a human being and the identity of the others so that I will continue to harmonize in my daily interactions with them?
Correct.
So, on your
J-
perspective and from your perspective, how do we continue to embody, or how are we supposed to protect these core values and to prevent
mhm.
human trafficking and to continue, um, you know, highlight this value? So, we have
W-
5 minutes.
well,
Oh, 3 minutes.
for now, I think education plays a big role. That's for one. And not only education that as we know it, for example, the academia, no? I mean, we have been doing, we have been there, but I mean, okay, education first. We need really to educate, uh, specifically within our homes. And it's a very big, it's a very big, uh,
mm,
that's why we really have to join forces in order that in the joining of forces, we can cut down into smaller things. This education as we know it. I mean, podcast is one way of doing this.
Mhm.
But we really have to network with each other so that we can cut it down and then really have a space for discussion and conversation because it begins there that we converse and we talk about it. I mean, just hearing Patrick. I imagine the mammoth of problems
Mm.
in in handling such an issue, no? Uh, and I'm trying to dissect what Patrick is saying into smaller bits and pieces. But to me, because I'm an educator, I always believe in a sense of educating people, our commonalities, our kapwa, raising that issues, our integrity and all that. But we really have to connect with each other, network with each other so that we can continue to converse and talk about this, because I don't think this is something that it's going to be done easily, no? Just like many big issues, this is the coming together of like-minded people
Mm-hmm.
so that we
Yeah.
can raise consciousness and awareness,
Yeah.
and then bring that kapwa to the floor.
That's true.
That the what's happening right now is that it is counter kapwa
Mm.
to who we are. And maybe if kapwa has not been heard by the West or some other people, we can share it to them
That's true.
that you are not different from us, as we are also not different from you. So instead of just objectifying our children or making an evil of you, why don't we just sit down and then, discuss this so that hopefully we can find ways. Um, because trafficking can also be very personal, at the same time social, you know. It's personal, it's also social. And that kind of dissection is so big. Even at the personal level, there's so many things that can be done.
That's true.
And at the social level, there's so many things that can also be done. But I
Mm-hmm.
think first stop is that we should connect with each other constantly, hopefully, so that there's an ongoing energy and force between and among us,
Mm-hmm.
so that
Yeah.
this kind of education can be.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
Yeah.
Patrick.
So the emphasis on our commonality is really essential, and it's like
Correct.
like there's so much discussion about equality, the equality between men and women. Um, we have to really see that in this context of our what's going to make our society, what's going to make our lives as wholesome and as fulfilling as possible. And to me, that really kind of essentially comes the building block of society and countries and everything is the family. And so
Mhm.
what's happened is we've allowed the family to crumble and to lose its importance and significance. We've diluted what the family means in many respects. And so I think have to start working towards recognizing that there needs to be support. Like for example, I spoke in Vienna at the United Nations, on crime prevention. And I mentioned if you want to reduce crime, incarceration rates, boys and children dropping out of school, poverty rates, all of that is now connected by data to fatherhood, to the lack of father presence. So what the response of the world has been is support single mothers, which is necessary in many cases, but it's also incentivized single motherhood. So now we have even more of a breakdown of the family. Whereas if we start to prioritize, how do I keep a father supported in such a way that he's not going to walk out on his children and his family? How do we disrupt those forces that are causing damage to the family? We prevent a lot of the vulnerability. The human
Mhm.
trafficking is just one symptom of what's happening with the breakdown of our social cohesiveness, starting with the family and then into
Correct.
larger and larger levels. And so you're right, it starts with the interaction with each other, it starts with education, but also, you know, insisting on social programs that support the
Mhm.
family, and
Yes,
also
okay.
disrupting the things like pornography, the 24/7 access to hardcore, demeaning, humiliating, violence-based pornography, which every 8-year-old is now being exposed to. This is problematic. So we need to insist on government policies that are also going to be more protective of children's ability to grow up naturally. And then to
Correct.
your point, Joan, you were talking about self exploitation. We create
Mm-hmm.
platforms like OnlyFans, which encourages children
Yeah.
to exploit themselves, to self pornify themselves, to see
Exactly.
Correct.
themselves as objects,
And social
which is
media.
so crippling to a child's development and
That's
their
true.
long term integrity.
Yeah,
So,
because to me it's very important when you said integrity needs to be um it it has to be in everything that we do in all aspects. And
Mm.
like what we said, education is the key for us to more or less teach this one. And the only access 24 hours for our kids is social media at this time.
Not
Actually,
just
the
teach it
most
though, not just
expansive,
teach it, but
Mhm.
live it. And I think this is
correct.
one of the problems. Parents
Mhm.
are living in a way that's completely different. They're giving the right message to their kids in many cases, but they're
But they're not
demonstrating
living it.
something else. Children learn
Mm.
by example. They imitate what they see. That's the core way that children learn. So
Actually,
parents, we have to live integrity. We have to live up
mm,
to what
That's
we
true.
believe is valuable
I
for our
think
children to follow.
I think now I can say that the most expansive educators are not anymore the parents, but the internet. I mean, that's
That's
why
right.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not
Okay, okay.
making an internet evil, but I'm saying that I think we have to join forces and check out what's happening in the internet. We have to be very creative as adults,
Mm,
as parents, as hopefully, as people who are taking care of the little ones also. We have to
that's right.
check out the internet and
Mm-hmm.
find creative ways to combat this massive because internet is an educator. They are the one educating our children.
Yeah.
They are the one that bringing in the values, the kapwa and everything to our and the evilness of it. I mean, if you look at the internet, these children spend more time with the internet than they spend time with us.
Yeah,
They
that's right.
they watch, they listen more to this than to us.
Yeah. So this is an overwhelming topic and it's really heavy. And we want to go on and kind of like talk about this further, but we have a very limited time,
Mm.
unfortunately. Maybe we can have another podcast. But thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much, Patrick.
Thank
But
you.
before we go, I want Patrick to tell us the concrete action he's doing on a daily basis to prevent
Correct.
human trafficking in our community. He is very, very, very passionate about this one. And anybody who's listening who is local, please, you will see Patrick around PCH area with
Mm.
a high holding a placard saying stop human trafficking in our community. Along PCH area, you will see Patrick's comrades, Patrick's friends raising awareness on a daily basis.
Okay.
So let's give Patrick the last minutes we have. So
Okay.
we'll see what's coming on the 6th, the
Yeah, May
next Father
6th.
Con.
Yeah, so we really tried to provide education and experiences and opportunities for people to learn about human trafficking, but then also,
Mhm.
to get the supportive resources that they need to
That's
do a
true.
better job as parents. So we have an event coming up on May 6th for anyone who's around the Southern California area, around Los Angeles area.
Mhm.
I really encourage you to come because this is going to be a collaboration with FatherCon, with LAPD, with the police department, which is going to be sharing what they're seeing, boots on the ground, what they're seeing when they raid homes where child pornography is being made, it's being filmed, and where it's how it's being shared, but also the human trafficking, what they're seeing, and how it looks. We see movies and then we think, oh, okay, now I understand about human trafficking, but it's much more than what you're going to be able to put in a drama or into a movie. And this is going to be a chance to ask your questions, to interact with people who are working every day, boots on the ground with human trafficking. So I really
Yeah.
encourage people to come May 6th. It's going to be at the Elks Lodge. It's a free event for the entire community. Plus, there's going to be resource organizations there. So you're going to be able to get material, and access to resources that you can use to protect your family, and to encourage you as a parent. I just find so many fathers have accepted this lie that they're not that essential to how their children are going to develop and grow, and it's just not true. And so to be in an environment where they're being celebrated, encouraged, and also incentivized to become the best dads they can become is really, really
That's good.
helpful. So take care of each other. I mean, I think, when I see a father playing with his kids, I go up to them and really thank them for what they're doing because, our slogan is a father makes a world of difference right at home. And we're changing the
Agree.
world one family at a
Agree.
time. Yeah.
100%. Yeah, agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was able to attend one of their FatherCon in Warren High School
Mm.
back 2020,
Three.
23. Yeah. And there was a lectures that I attended. And literally, you are speaking with LAPD, and they're telling you on what the how to spot website that is not supposed to be in your child's computer. So there's a lot of speakers, a lot of resources from immigration down to human trafficking to food bank. It's a lot of resources. And are you also continuing with giving the award for the father?
Not at this event, but
Not
we
at
will
this
at the
time.
next larger father conference. So we give
Okay.
a Heart of the Father award because I think
Okay.
we need to recognize
The
too
heart
that
of the
not
father.
not every father is a biological father of their own children,
Mhm.
but men have stepped up and exhibit this heart of a father, this care for children
Mhm.
that we associate with fatherhood. And so
Mhm.
we want to honor that. So we give 3 Heart of the Father awards at all of our of all of our FatherCon conferences, which
Mhm.
we hold annually.
Yeah, so FatherCon is in LA only, or do we have other FatherCon in different states,
So
like
glad you asked that.
Hawaii,
So we have a whole group of men in Uganda that are
Uganda?
now,
Yeah.
like FatherCon Uganda. We have people in Europe. We have people in states across. So
That's
the
nice.
next FatherCon we're going to have is a hybrid event. So we'll
Okay,
actually
fantastic.
broadcast it out to the world, so everyone will be able to benefit.
And the next will be the Philippines, Patrick.
When is
Philippines, yeah, we're coming. We're coming.
okay? So thank you so much, Ricky. Thank you so much, Patrick, and thank you
Yeah.
so much for listening to Kapwa Filipino Indigenous Voices. Hope you are going to participate and engage in this conversation. Hope to see you next time. Thank you so much.